because there's so much great stuff, as you guys know, so much great stuff happening in the scene.
Right. And you guys do a lot to showcase all these bands here in the Bay Area, showing the world, you know, kind of what we're capable of, and also helping us develop what can get us to the next level too, you know?
Well,
So
thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
Real quickly though, because there's probably some people that might be seeing this that don't know who you are. You want to tell us about you, your background, maybe how Frantic came to get into Dennis's radar also, you know? Give us a little background. Tell us who Dennis is.
Well, I was born in I've always loved music, and
I'm listening.
When I was a teenager, a bunch of us, we started an after-school music request show on our local access TV station, and we did that until we were forced to change the format, and we did, and we brought on music videos, and we just kept doing it, and we did it for 500 episodes, and the reason we stopped doing it, and it was the same thing.
All right, so I'm going to record this.
Oh, weird. What's going on?
You get disconnected?
I think I just hear your audio, Mike.
Check.
Sorry, Dennis. I felt like you were saying some really good stuff there.
Is he muted?
We picked tonight. Yeah, he's still here. We picked tonight.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'm seeing everybody.
Okay, there you go. I hear you.
Sorry about that, Dennis.
There we go.
Oh, no, not a problem.
So you just said 500 episodes is
Yeah.
where, for me, it cut out. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And so we kept doing our show. There was a group of us, you know, I mean, you've met a lot of us, but we've had an ensemble over the years that have included, 20 different hosts that have come in and out of the fray. And one day we got a letter from Universal Music, who ended at the time, and probably more so now, controlled like 60% of all the labels. So all the content was controlled by Universal. And it's because of the post-Napster fallout and the slow to embrace digital, and CD sales are falling. They were looking to make money wherever they could. So they reached out to all the regional shows, regional radio and regional music video shows that were breaking their songs anyway. We were doing all the hard work by playing stuff first. And they gave us a bill, basically, and said, we'll continue giving us the videos, but it's going to be $7,500 a year.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
Kidding me?
that's
Like, we're not making
insane.
money. So we thought, well, we're like 11 episodes away from number 500. Let's go out in a blaze of glory. Let's invite all our hosts back. Let's do a final season. And we did that. And then we went away for a while, but we kind of didn't. You know, the group of us still got together once a year to do the Christmas show. And the weird part is that after we went off the air, that's when people started to go, hey, what was that show? And, you know, and it kind of grew a little bit of a legend for itself. But as we continued doing the Christmas show and raising food, clothing, and toys and things like that, we ended up getting that show on a bunch of different stations. And then so what happened is, I'm telling you that it's not the long version, believe me. What happened was we were cruising along doing our little Facebook things and having parties and whatever. And then KFOG fired all of their hosts back in 2016. And so I reached out to, I kind of knew those guys, and I reached out to Peter Finch and Dave Morey and Renee and Irish Greg, and they were all starting podcasts. And I said, let's take your podcast and put it on our website. And they're like, cool. And I reached out to Dave Morey, who did 10 at 10 great songs from one great year. And I said, I want to produce a new version of that. Would you be our host? You know, the Don Pardo announcer. He's like, I'd love to. And so suddenly then we became the hub for discarded awesome radio voices. And we picked up some radio shows, and Bear started doing a show, and our pal intern Steve started doing a show. We were predominantly audio shows for a while. And then I met Shasta, and I asked her to do a bit on our Christmas show. She said, I'd love to. She came down. We had a wonderful collaboration, going out on locations and things like that. And as soon as we were done, she comes up to me and says, what are we going to do next? And I said, I don't know. What do you want to do? And we just began talking. There was nothing planned. We do a party every March 30th, is our anniversary. And we had a March 30th party in 2018. Didn't announce anything, had nothing on the books. And within about 2 weeks after that, we started having a serious conversation. What could we do? I said, well, we used to do a music video show. That's great. And I thought, who's going to watch one of those now? It's 2018. And then she says, I'm contacted with all these. There's so much great stuff happening in the scene. it so organically came together. Within 6 weeks, we were in front of the cameras, and 2 weeks after that, we were doing a show every week.
Wow.
And
Wow.
it was amazing. The energy, the organic energy in which this thing formed, came together. And then how we found you is we were like, we need bands. We need to start scouring the interwebs looking for talent. And to be quite honest, there's a lot of amazing bands out there that don't have great visual representation. There's a lot of bands that aren't so great that have great videos. We were looking for just like, all right, how do we best? So you guys had it all. When I stumbled upon your Facebook page, I was like, man, they got the look, they got the vibe, they got the feel, they got great songs. The videos are amazing. And it's one of the connections we've made that we're most happy with. You guys are awesome. And so anytime you've got something going on, we're like, cool, let's do something. So it's just been great.
Awesome, man. Thank you. That means a hell of a lot, man. Seriously.
Well, okay, so I know this story is, pretty easy for you to tell, but why don't you tell people who it is that you work with and the name? Where can they find you on the web?
Oh, you mean the how can they find us part? We're at SoundwavesTV.com. And pretty much all of our socials are SoundwavesTV, the YouTube and the Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. And it all leads back to the same place. We all post all the same things. And what happens is we'll do a 1 hour a week show that we pre-tape, and it drops on Sunday. It streams live. So it's our little version of Destination TV. So you can watch it live, but you could also watch it on demand as soon as it drops. And it's on, we have a Roku channel, but then we carve out the interviews and share those too. So however you want to consume the content, we try to make it available for you.
I find just making it kind of like my Sunday evening thing now is what I like to enjoy.
That's cool.
I think I told you in a previous conversation, as a kid growing up, I think the Muppet Show was kind of like my Sunday evening thing. Now it's like,
I'm good.
It still kind of is the Muppet Show. It's like a variety.
It kind of is. It kind of is, It's that's a huge compliment.
Yeah. Hey, I very sincerely mean that.
We're really fortunate. We've heard that a lot. And again, we thought, who's going to watch a thing? Like Chasta is funny because she's very she's a little younger than all of us, and so she's very plugged into the whole Instagram generation, and she's like, an hour, who's going to watch an hour? And so I don't even tell her when the episodes are like an hour and a half. I'm like, okay. Gonna be a good one this week. But truth be told, sometimes you need that much time to squeeze it all in. It's so much good stuff.
Yeah
No,
I have noticed that you guys don't feel it, you don't give off a vibe that you cut to time. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's like,
I'll agree with you.
Like I could just sit there and watch. Oh my God, that episode is an hour and a half. What happened?
There's not a lot of those, but we try to make it count.
Yeah, maybe not, but it's still like it. You don't feel like, God, does this feel like it's dragging this week? It's always just a lot of good
that's
energy.
The thing. Hopefully, it doesn't feel boring.
No. Right.
And that's the thing. You want to keep your interviews to 10, 12 minutes. You want to keep your, every now and again it gets oblong, but nature of the beast.
Very, very entertaining.
Well, we appreciate that. And the Soundwaves thing that we've always had, we've always called ourselves the Soundwaves family, because we just genuinely love each other and we have such a great time. And if you just point cameras at us, I mean, you guys have probably been around when we're trying to get through a take and it just devolves into ridiculousness. I mean, our crew's generally not happy with us when that happens, but it happens.
Being on the end where we do a lot of music videos ourselves, we know how that happens. It could tend to happen quick. You know what I mean? You can go off on a tangent laughing about what we're going to eat for lunch or whatever, it just happens. It happens.
Oh yeah. Now sometimes what happens, this is a really interesting time because we're going to be doing our show on Zoom tomorrow and airing it Sunday. And because there's so little production, we're actually in a position where we can be timely. We could play super current stuff, and whatever happens tomorrow, we'll talk about it on the show Sunday. When we go back into real production, as you guys know, because you've been on the show, we need a little bit of lead time. It's usually at least 2 weeks, probably 3. And it's been longer than that between when the interview shot. And so you can't be super timely. So you have to find other things to talk about. But that's because there's so much production and editing and stuff.
Absolutely.
It's going to be interesting to go back to the other version. I'm already conspiring, like, how can we walk out of there with a switched version of the interviews, you know?
So you're saying that maybe as a byproduct of this whole shelter in place thing, your production has gotten easier?
It has. We only did the one show last weekend, but we
Right.
gave it a full week. I was done cutting in 5 hours. And
Wow.
that's stem to stern, creating the graphics, the on-screen graphics, the building the theme, who's going to be on the episode. That, you know, that's a new thing every week. Cutting the interviews, timing it, mixing it, all that. And I started. We all stumbled in front of the camera because we were up doing a Zoom drinking thing the night before, and we said we're going to be on at 11. We were rolling by maybe 11:45, but I was done editing by 4:15. I was rolling.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I'm like, if we plan ahead, like right now, tomorrow's show is all laid out on the timeline and ready to go.
Yeah.
So in theory, I'm going to try to set some speed records, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's, I don't know. I mean, it's interesting, and it's always a challenge because our whole thing is we have fun and we love each other and we just love doing the thing, but it's always like, we always have the same goal. And I'm sure you guys will be able to relate, and that's good enough is not good enough. So it's like, how can we make it better? How can we add a better looking camera? How can we add lighting in that corner? We're always just like stopping and looking at the thing, go, we could do it in our sleep, but we stop and we just go, okay, so how can we elevate this part of it now? You know, and I love that. I love that we're always scratching around trying to make it better.
That's awesome. Yeah, and it shows. It shows. The production's great that you guys put out.
Thank you very much.
Hey, just real quick, for anyone just joining us, we are here with Dennis Willis, co-founder, co-host, awesome person of SoundwavesTV. Back, I think it was last summer, Frantic Romantic had the pleasure and honor of being on SoundwavesTV, and we also had the honor and pleasure of playing their holiday party back in December. You know, we're all shut in and quarantined right now, and we love just chatting with folks. And we thought for our first episode, we'd have one of our great friends, Dennis Willis.
Well, thank you. And you know what? It's funny. I forgot to bring this up earlier. It's because of you guys that one of my heroes actually gave us a shout out, and that's Berkeley Breathed.
Right.
County.
Right. With
Bill the Cat. We've had Bill the Cat on the set of every Christmas show we've done, and some other things too. And Mike decides, I'm going to dance with Bill the Cat. And so we had all this amazing stuff. So we just took that as a still, and it showed up on, like, I don't think he retweeted it, but he liked it. And I'm just like, he saw it. Wow.
That's super cool.
Yeah. That is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
And also, just as a heads up for anybody, anyone wanting to write in and ask questions, just leave them in the comments section, and we will answer those questions live here on the broadcast.
I should switch over to that too, because I'm watching on the Zoom here.
I'm watching on Zoom too. I know
we find those questions. That's going to be over on the Facebook.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay.
But yeah, you know, Dennis, one of the, you know, it's interesting, you know, I mean, I lived in the Bay Area for pretty much most of my life. And then I moved down to LA. And there's something about the Bay Area and the way it treats its local music that is so, like, positive and optimistic, and like it's a community, you know, and you know, the vibe that I got when we went on to talk to you guys was just like, oh God, this is what it's like. Yeah. You know, I forgot all about, like, you know, it reminded me of this very nostalgic feeling of just being in the Bay Area, playing in the Bay Area, and, like, you know, every band is your friend, and, like, every band, like, you know, everybody gets to know each other, and everybody's chatting, and there's no pressure, and there's no, like, real competition about it. It's just
it's amazing. You know, we'll do a show, like we'll do a Soundwaves Presents sort of things, and 3 or 4 bands will be there. But what we'll notice, or even if we just go to a show, even if we just like, hey, let's all go meet and go here, you will see that. You will see, like, there's this band on stage, but here's this other band that has nothing to do with it, and they've come out to watch and buy a ticket and support. And people are meeting each other and networking and eventually working together. And we just kind of stand in the center and go, you know, if we had any small part of that, You know, and I'm not gonna lie, there's a couple little proud little humble brag moments. Shasta and I will go, those two are working together and they met on our set, you know, and it's like, that's the super gratifying thing. It's that we didn't invent this. We didn't do anything different than just shine a light on it. But you're right. That vibe is there. That spirit is there. These bands support each other, and it's a great, great place. There's not a musical bone in my body. I can't play anything. You will see two very lonely guitars sitting over there that I just, you know, in another lifetime, maybe. But what I get from what I see is the spirit of creativity, the spirit of support. Oh my God, it's incredible, the scene.
Yeah. A big question I had for you, Dennis, because I feel like you would have a much better idea than I would. I mean, obviously we're in this quarantine, these few months that we're going to be in this quarantine. Just predictably, when people start to come back from this, right, when bands start playing shows again, do you think it's going to be kind of a gradual thing, or do you think it's going to be super aggressive, or what do you think the landscape is going to be for that?
It's going to be interesting. I can see both scenarios. I can see everybody just wants to get out and have a party. And I can see that at first there's going to be a lot of that. I can also see that people might be a little gun shy because we're training ourselves for social distancing, and you know, there might be some idea that maybe whatever's floating around out there is still floating around a little bit. We've never been in this situation where we're here. So I don't know, you know, it's like, are the clubs going to survive? Are the, what is the landscape going to be? We have no idea. So I don't know. I would love to believe that the better part of me would like to believe that we're connecting with our friends this way, and we're supporting our artists by watching them on Facebook and buying shirts and contributing how we can. And then hopefully that would translate. Hopefully that when we can leave our house, we're not just going to elect to sit on the couch and watch Netflix. And hopefully we'll get out, and maybe some of the people we discovered watching online, because I've discovered all kinds of bands, and I would love to think that given the chance, I'll go buy a ticket and go see that show, you know, in front of an audience and share with somebody. So I don't know. I'm hoping for the best. The other interesting thing is that, and this is something I talked to with my radio station buddies with, and that's that the other thing we're all realizing, and especially the powers that be, the corporations are realizing, is that we all can kind of work from home. You know, if there's work, in a lot of cases, in many cases, we've been able to transfer what we do, not from an office, but we can do it right here, which is great in that less traffic, less pollution, the planet's breathing a little bit. That part's awesome. But then ingress isn't the word I'm thinking of. The regression, I think, is that corporations will realize, well, we don't need all that office space, or we don't need all those employees. Oh, yeah. So I think there's going to be a shakedown at some point that may not be economically the best scenario. Right. And so I don't know. I'm no expert. You can kind of sense the whole thing ebbing and flowing, breathing a little bit.
It is a shift, right?
It is definitely a shift. No, it is. And all we can do is play music, all you guys can do is make, all we can do is play what you make. And at the end of the day, when we all emerge, we're still going to be entertained. I mean, look what's getting us through this. It's the arts, it's movies, it's music, it's Netflix, it's concerts on Facebook. And so, at the end of the day, that's what we have. And so that's the only drum I can bang. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do those graduations that I do on a regular basis, though. I mean, that's the other thing. We all have day jobs. I'm a videographer. When I'm not doing this, I'm shooting weddings and graduations and school events, and poof, gone. There's no work now,
I think that stuff is going to come back, though. I think what you were speaking to earlier is a really good, valid point, that a lot of the corporations out there, as far as their utilization of their workforce, maybe they don't need all that space that's, they're paying people to sit in. Maybe they're actually going to, we as a global community or a betterment of a society out of this whole pandemic could be to look at, are we utilizing all this space that we have around for the good of the community. Like if you have more people working from home, could some of that space be theoretically converted into housing?
Right. Yeah.
You know, because like then you're not paying people to sit in there. You're actually getting some sort of subsidy or payment for having people sit in your space.
That's a great point.
You know?
Yeah, definitely.
But I mean, there's one potential problem that could be solved because of this. You know, if we were to kind of silver lining things, so to speak, here. So,
well, let me ask you guys. So you're you just dropped an album, and you're obviously all very creative people. We have day jobs, but what are you doing to create? What are you working on at this point? Are we? Has this been a beneficial period? Because I know for me, it's been hard to motivate. Like I can be doing my radio stuff and I can be working on our documentary and all this stuff. I haven't. I spent 3 weeks sitting here like a slug because I don't have any deadlines. Like I realize I'm very deadline oriented. And that was a hard one.
You know, I can tell you personally, you know, I had a daughter a couple of years ago, and you know, I was doing a 80 hours a week, 2-job kind of situation, and doing the band at the same time.
Yeah.
And so the whole time I was like, if I could just get some more time, you know, I can put this to use. So any creative ideas that came to me, I would have to write them down on napkins at work, or while driving, I'd pull over and just kind of record it into my phone or something.
Right.
You know, just longing for time. And now that I have the time, I feel like I'm utilizing that to the most that I can. You know, I find that I'm very motivated right now, demoing, writing, doing as much as I can, collaborating with these guys, shooting them ideas, annoying them constantly, you know?
I think the technology is definitely has been a cool thing to keep us moving forward. You know, we're really starting to share ideas. You know, I've heard of the Postal Service, which is you know, Death Cab for Cuties side project, and they call themselves the Postal Service because they lived on different places in the country, and they were mailing back the parts, and they pretty much put an album together.
Oh wow!
So, you know, that's kind of the concept that we're taking on right now.
Nice.
You know, we're coming up with riffs, we're coming up with ideas, we're telling them to each other, and then we're trying to, you know, do our own parts at home, and you know, start sending back ideas and things like that. So
cool.
So that's definitely been extremely helpful. Just the technology, how easy it is. I'm not real familiar with like iPads and stuff, and I just realized today that some of the demos that, you know, Ruben was doing on his iPhone, I have right here now on my iPad. So, you know, programs
it's on the same cloud, you know?
Yeah, it's on the same cloud. So I can lay a track on top of what he just sent me, you know, now, and I can throw him and say, you know, check this out. What do you think about that?
And I think that's so fantastic, cool. Right? It's like collaboration through social distancing. I mean, just because we can't be in the same room doesn't mean we can't create together. You know, that's kind of what makes us a strong group, is that we create together very well, you know?
Yeah.
And it's a mental shift too, because like I said, in a lot of cases, you need to figure out where your discipline is going to come from. But also I think one of the things that was throwing me off, and I had big heartfelt conversations with Chasta and Steve and a few others. It's because I crave the collaboration. I crave the, what do you think of that? No, let's try this. Yeah. And so you're sitting there by yourself, you know, and you're just throwing stuff into the void. So it's awesome that you guys are actually collaborating that way.
See, I'm not gonna lie. For the first couple of weeks, I was doing the whole slug thing, just laying out on the couch. But you know, Ruben's been hitting me up. You know, he's been giving me a couple of tracks that he's been working on, and that's motivated me. I'm telling myself, wow, you know, he's being really creative right now. I should get on it too. You know, and I listen to that, and it motivates me. And hearing these guys, you know, we talk to each other every week, and we talk about new ideas, and you know, it just refreshes that. So now this week I'm pretty motivated. Been writing a lot, so I'm really looking forward to the new stuff that's going to come out of this quarantine. You know, it's kind of a little blessing in disguise for us. You know, I think more material is going to come out of this.
Well, you know, we're kind of fortunate that, you know, as Zeke's coming into the band, he's a great songwriter, and he brought a big catalog with him already. That he's taken like a 6-year break. So he's been writing in that 6 years, and you know, it's at least something good to work with, you know.
That's cool. Yeah, I don't know what it all means, but you know. The thing is, you know, I if I'm not working on something, I will sit around and wonder what it all means. You know, it's like I can't tell you any grand, profound, I was put here to do whatever, but I can certainly tell you when I'm not. It like I'm working on a show right now for tomorrow, so I'm happy. You know what I mean? I know what I'm doing. That it's
Purpose,
5 o'clock.
right.
We're sure. You know, it's like I know what we're doing and when we're doing it, and so that structure is really good. So if you can find that, I mean, more power to you. It has not been easy. My phrase that I find all the time, you know, that when you're trying to be brilliant and you can't find it, it's like you're walking around in the dark. I say, I'm looking for the light switch. It's like, where's that brilliant light switch? Because I know if I could find it, it'll be the best stuff I ever did, but I can't find it.
It's like they say, like when you watch water boil, it's never going to boil if you're looking for it or whatever. You're watching it, you know, it's kind of the same idea.
Exactly.
I feel like if you feel inspired, if you feel like something's happening or whatever, you just got to go with it. You know what I mean? When it's there.
What inspires you guys? What is it? Is it a typical thing? Like I heard a great song or I heard a great lyric or a great riff, or do you find your inspiration from your lives or other mediums?
Oh.
Ooh.
Well.
Wow. Deep.
First of all, thanks for asking. I mean, I think individually we all kind of have our own thing.
I think there's definitely parameters when it comes to songwriting. There's certain, you know, themes that we stick to, and those tend to be personal, but also kind of shrouded in metaphor, right? You know, for me personally, it's always like I with lyrics that I write, it's I want to tell the world something deep and dark and maybe disturbing about myself, but maybe not have them know right away what that is.
Yeah.
And I think Ruben, you kind of operate similarly, I think, right?
I've been trying to get a little more, like, I'd like to think that the writing that I do is honest, but I don't want to be outright. You know what I mean? I don't want it to be super obvious, but I'm trying to, I guess, trust with some of that creativity, you know, with letting people in with some of that stuff. Because some of it is a little heavy. Some of it is a little personal, but I think playing with someone like Mike, like Joseph for so many years, I feel more of that. I could trust to put that out there and know that it's like a good, safe environment, you know? I mean, you know.
Did you ever hear that David Bowie quote about going in the ocean?
No.
You ever heard that one? It's one of my favorite quotes about creativity ever, and I'm going to botch it all up, so I apologize in advance. But the gist of it was that when you go into the ocean, there's that feeling like, I got this. There's this gradual kind of the water's coming up, but then all of a sudden there's the drop off, and you find the water's like right here, and it's starting to feel a little dangerous where there's a pull, and you're not quite sure if you're going to make it, and it feels like maybe I shouldn't have gone this far. And he says, that's the right place to begin creating.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, that's
awesome.
cool. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah.
It's, you know, I mean, it's kind of like with screen acting or with animating or like with stage acting too. People have this idea in their head, what seems to be like the realistic movement to make. Right. But in reality, and for people to process what someone's acting, what their body language is and all that, you kind of, instead of doing it like a 10, you kind of got to do like a 12, you know? You kind of got to go a little bit too far, and then that's probably just the right spot.
It's the something valley, right? The uncanny valley.
Uncanny valley, yeah.
Right? I remember you talking to me about that.
Yeah.
Right? Kind of, right.
I mean, the uncanny valley is basically largely used for like CG animation, where it's like they're trying to make, you remember Rogue One?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
And there was Tarkin. And when Tarkin turned around and you saw his face, and you're just like, oh,
right.
This almost works. So basically, the gap between where Tarkin is and where Tarkin is supposed to be, that's the uncanny valley.
See, I just thought if they did Tarkin in a hologram, it would have worked perfectly.
I know.
You know, like behind one of those little fizzy view screens that they have in Star Wars when they're communicating, do that, and then it's awesome.
Yeah.
Whole nother subject.
Yeah.
So easy to get onto, though.
It is.
I always think of, what do I do with my hands? Right? You know, I always think of that.
I love these artists that writers, literary writers, songwriters, especially singer-songwriters, who could just pour themselves into this authentic place. You know, and it's like, wow, how do you find that? How can you, because we're all playing a part, right? It's like, even like, you know, when I'm hosting a show or doing a radio thing, when you guys are, you know, on stage, we're all doing a variation on yourself. We're all playing a character to a degree, right?
Right.
And that's that wall. That's that thing that allows us to perform, really. So to take that and to go to this completely unguarded place is like, when artists can do that, I'm like, wow, you know, and be poetic and teach me something about myself. You know, it's like, that's the stuff where you just go, okay, I got nothing, you know, it's
Yeah.
I'm just going to stand over and push the play button on your stuff, because I don't even know how you find that. That's the amazing stuff.
I think that's something great to try to strive for as a writer, as an artist, to find that balance of that, you know. Obviously, like for me personally, right, you do stuff so that you feel a little more comfortable in the art in front of people, you know, at least I do. I feel like had I not developed that character, maybe I wouldn't be so confident or comfortable, right?
Right, totally.
But to do that and to actually give off something genuine from yourself, man, I applaud that.
Oh yeah,
Definitely.
It's a rare thing indeed.
So Dennis, you know, I have a question for you. Do you find that there was like a moment in your personal life where you thought, you know what, this is the moment where I got really, really interested in music?
I was raised around a lot of music, but my dad's music, he listened to jazz and big band, and I was always aware of it, blues, things like that. But I didn't really find my music until I listened to the radio all the time. I pretty much grew up listening to the radio, and I didn't like a lot of stuff. Like in retrospect, I remember being a kid growing up in the mid 70s, and all that AM gold shit, I just didn't like any of it. And then when it started to shift a little bit, when the new wavy rock and roll started to come in late 70s, I was like, oh, I like this. This is more me. And it was kind of like, you know, the Knack, My Sharona, you know, there was this kind of like overnight, it's like it changed overnight twice. It was like the reactions to disco and all that pop rock, new wave, punk flavored stuff was just really speaking to me. And then when MTV dropped, there was this whole nother flip of the page where they needed to fill up their airwaves. And it just so happened that all the artists that happened to have videos were Australian and European and British. And so all of a sudden overnight, that music changed. And it's like, I just rode that wave. I loved it, you know?
Yeah. It's interesting. You know, I was talking to our one of our new buddies named Mondo, and we were talking about how that late 70s, early 80s pocket of music was just so damn interesting and experimental, and like, you know, I guess it was sort of like the birth of alternative around that time, you know, and it was it was cool because, you know, you had all these synth-driven bands, but it wasn't so complicated or like really poppy how it was in maybe the late 80s. You know, like Tears for Fears' first album, I thought was really
amazing, like, classic album.
Like Gary Newman's stuff, and I don't know, it's just like the Brian Eno, Bowie era, Kraftwerk, just all these like weird different ideas coming out of that time.
But what was really cool about that is that as that stuff shook out into pop music, it made the pop music better. Like Let's Dance, and you know, like there's this like 82 to 85 stretch where like whenever they talk about the 80s, really everything they play was from like 3.5 years.
Yeah,
you know, like from that just post MTV summer of 82 on through where they hit the wall in top of 86 with all the hair bands, and it's just like everything in there is kind of like what we think of when we think of the 80s.
Right.
Yeah. I absolutely, I am such an easy mark for this, but if you're going to take any two forms of music and you're going to jam them together, you've got my attention. I remember there was this, you may or may not have ever heard of this, but this totally random, rare, I'm listening to Live 105 in the 90s. and I hear this driving this beat, and I'm like, boy, that beat sounds familiar. That's kind of cool. And then they actually weaved in, I'm trying to think of the name of it. It took me forever to find it, and I finally did. And they took it like an old, like sing, like this old big band, bump, 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 bump. And they put that behind this total punk thrash sound. And I was like, whoa, like that all works together, you know? And so I love mashups. I love anytime you can take, you know, two different types of something and make it sound like something brand new.
Isn't that called ska?
I don't know if that was ska necessarily. I'm trying to, it's going to bug me now what that was.
You know,
Yeah.
Dennis, if I'm going to do a little plug here. There's another Bay Area band. They do mashups, and they are actually like I think they're like one of the kings of live mashup bands called the Peelers. And those
cool.
dudes, yeah, man, they'll take like a tune from the 80s, something modern nowadays, you know, very current. And they'll put the two of them together and go through, you know, variations, but keep the dance rhythm going.
Nice.
So they're very danceable, very groovable. But the Peelers, man, they really did it with that whole mashup thing, kind of like that. Anybody remember that Tom Cruise movie? It was the musical one. They're down in Hollywood.
Rock of Ages.
Yeah. So all those songs, how they're kind of matched up, except they're more or less in the same genre. They take stuff from all over it. I mean, it's quite a bit of musicianship, even though, you know, you might want to write them off as a cover band. It's pretty creative that they can still take that and make it new and make it their own. So
there's something to that. There's something to that. Yeah.
Hey, everybody. I'd like to take a moment just to give a few shout outs to the people listening and watching out there. So we got Mondo Branca. Welcome back, Mondo. We got Jeff Podraza.
Oh, hey, Jeff.
Hey, Jeff.
Nestor Flores.
What's up, Nestor?
Travis Thomas.
Wait, Nestor. Now he's down in Mexico, right?
He is.
He's in Tijuana. Actually, he's in Playas. Right. Yeah.
So we've got a reach.
Cool.
Nestor, hope you're doing well. Travis Thomas. Morris Knight.
Oh, hey, Morris.
What?
Yeah. We got Joe Dalva, who's a really awesome bassist that I used to be in a band with. Joe, it's great to hear from you. We got Stephen Kirk. Stephen Kirk's in here, leaving some comments. So, and then Chris Larson. Hey, Chris, how you doing? That was an old college buddy of mine. And Kenny Sinatra's in here, too.
Oh, hey, Kenny.
Oh, yeah, Kenny. Now, you know, Dennis, you mentioned something a bit ago, how you weren't a musician, but you've kind of always been on the periphery. Those people, to me, creativity it's kind of like that's our sense of humanity, creativity. We have different languages within that, though. The language that our band speaks is music, right? And there's some people who are multilingual. They go into visual arts as well, and they can still do the music. Music to me has always seemed more like a language, and I communicate and I can gravitate towards those people that speak it. So you saying, you know, I'm not creative. It's no, I disagree. You are.
I'm not saying I'm not creative. I'm saying I can't play an instrument. I love music. I can't play. My dad.
That's what I was gonna say. It's like, I hope you don't think that you're not creative, because I would
Dennis
say
no.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I wish I could express myself through music in that regard. I mean, I love percussion. I love, you know, anytime I can get behind a drum set, you know, everybody leave the room, but I love it, you know. And like I said, I'd love to learn how to play guitar. I'm in awe of anybody who can express themselves that way. I wish I could, you know.
But we would be, I think, less interesting and less available if we didn't use that visual creativity. People like you and Kenny. You know, Kenny is like, he's an amazing dude. You know, we got to do a photo shoot with him and Stevie Lovelace, he was there too. We did the picture behind me, but Kenny got some really cool candid shots of us during that shoot. And he is amazing just to kind of be around, because he's such a fan. He doesn't want the spotlight. He doesn't want that, but he is such a fan of bands and a fan of music. And it's just like, man, that creativity and that vibe that he has, it might be a different language, and I can't speak it, because behind a camera, I have no idea what I'm doing, but that creativity is still there. So that, I don't know, the creativity is what binds us, but everybody's got a different language that, you know, they speak. So I just want to make sure it's like, oh my God, I hope you're not saying you're not creative.
Oh, no. I'm not saying that. But
good.
You're right. I think more than anything else, I think if you're doing it right, you're just a student of what's beyond your fingertips. I mean, we all, you know, it's, what is that old phrase about, I don't know. I'm not going to say it right, but you know, master of none, you know,
Jack of all trades,
yeah.
Master of none.
Oh, right.
So
those who
like,
can't
I could do a lot of things, and I can do them all pretty well. And there's a few things I do better than other things, but I'm absolutely enamored with the people like Kenny and Stevie who have such like an appreciation for the visual eye. Our guy Wayne Hess, who lights our set. It's like last year, my whole goal is I want to learn about lighting because I don't know how any of this works. And so I think if you're doing it right, like I can't say even that definitively. I can just say for myself, I love to learn as much as I can. Doesn't mean I'm going to be great at it, but I have such an appreciation for when people do things at a very high level. I'm a student of that, you know?
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. It makes you want to up your own game.
Totally. And that's exactly it. I mean, what's that old cliche? If you're the smartest person in the room or the best at whatever, find yourself a different room. You know, I mean, I love being challenged creatively. Steve Kirk and I have challenged each other creatively for decades, you know, and it's one of our running jokes. It drives me insane, but damn it if he isn't right all the time. And that's like, I'll be editing something and I'll go, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. He's over my shoulder and he's quiet. And I'm just like, here it comes. Here it comes. And I can tell even as he draws in his breath, he's like, and I'm like, fuck, here it comes. And he's like, what if you like, you're right. And he chuckles, but that's, you know, that's the thing. I mean, I crave that, you know what I mean? I love when people are just superstars at their own part of the field, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And they make it look easy. That's the worst part.
Yeah.
It's like those jazz dudes, man. It's like the ones who make it look easy are doing the really hardest shit. But
exactly.
if they make it look like it's hard, then it's usually not.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You know, and I see Kenny and Stevie and they, you know, they walk in with their cameras and they set their stuff down and they're being casual and I don't even notice them when they're there. Like I'm just doing my thing and they okay, we're leaving. And I'm thinking, did they do anything? And then they send along 250 amazing photos. And I'm just like, when the hell were they doing that? Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Yeah. So we did this photo shoot and, you know, Steve was the primary photographer and he did a lot of the lighting stuff and he was setting up for the main shots. Right. And to me, I didn't understand that language, you know, the way he sees things, you know, and how he conceptualizes and thinks it through. So I look at the thing and it's like, it looks pretty stark and I don't understand it. I don't know how this is going to come out. So he pops off a couple test shots and it's like, oh, wow, you got that from like one light? How do you like, and then, you know, a couple little filters on maybe a couple others, but dude, they make it look like effortless and seamless. So they're doing like visual jazz.
Those are the people who I just go, all right, you're never getting away now.
No,
you're never leaving.
Yeah. No, very fortunate to have run into those two cats, man. That's some superstar people here in the Bay Area.
And that's what I was saying before is that we've got this kind of like extended family of creatives that's just forming. Somebody's awesome at this, or somebody's, you know, great at putting a show together. Somebody's amazing at photography. And it's just like, you look around and go, what can we do here? What kind of a dent can we make here if we're all doing our part, pooling our talent, you know, and really kind of elevating what we all know is here. And I love Chasta's idea. Did you hear what her idea from, it was a couple of episodes ago where she talked about the town hall?
No, I missed that.
Oh, it's phenomenal. She's on a run.
Generally, I try not to overgo, you know, I try not to, you know, zip through any kind of where you guys are talking. That's where I actually find most entertainment, most information. Sorry, go ahead.
Thanks. Well, it's at top of episode 49. So she calls us up and she's like, I got an idea. Okay. And so she's like, let's do a thing where we get, this is pre-coronavirus, but she's like, let's get people in a room, a chosen curated group, photographers, videographers, promoters. These people can build a website. These people can book shows, and let's introduce them to each other. And let's just figure out who can help who. You're great at shooting music videos. You need a music video. And start networking together and building up what, again, we all know is an amazing scene. But, we all have blind spots. We all have something that we're really good at. And I have no idea about that over there. Yeah. But the more you meet people and the more you connect with people, you realize that person does. And so if we can fill each other's blind spots and really shine a light on what's happening in the Bay Area, I think it would be amazing.
Yeah,
absolutely.
It's funny how you mentioned something, along that line. It's like earlier you had said Shasta is, the younger one in your guys' group, and she's very much got her finger on the pulse of social media, all those sorts of digital outlets. And so, but have you noticed, like what you've said, it's like she's wanting to bring it back.
That's right.
Retro.
That's right.
She wants people in a room.
She's all about humans connecting. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes that digital realm, it does get in the way. It makes it more convenient, but it does get in the way. So it's interesting to hear you talk about, like, this is similar to like what those kids were going through back in the 60s, with, everybody coming together in the whole art scene in the Bay Area.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Yeah.
So,
but back then there wasn't the real estate issues we have. There's a million different things that are different between then and now. But I think the thing that remains is that Bay Area spirit, bands helping bands. And what can we make of this? That spirit of creativity.
Yeah, man.
I mean, maybe a few clubs come back. Maybe after all this, and somebody realizes they don't need that big office building. Somebody converts it into a club, or we were just talking last week. A lot of folks are trying to figure out how to create an online component to live events and make that a permanent part of the live music experience, so people don't have to leave their homes but still can contribute to the artist.
Yeah.
And I do think that these moments in history, these paradigm shifts, always give birth to something else if the creativity is waiting for it.
Right. I think we got to carry on this conversation because we could go like on. On.
We do this all the time.
Yeah, no, I could totally see, like, you get a group of 25 people to divide a very big idea, and there could be a significant impact.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, how many times have you and I just chatted privately about, like, let's do this fundraiser, let's do this thing. And it's getting bigger and more vast, but I love that.
I know. It's like, oh, you know what? I just stumbled across this little tidbit of information. This is doable. I mean, this is actually, there are people out there who are willing to underwrite these sort of things, just because they still believe in the arts. It's like, we might be one phone call away from making something like that happen, but then we're still keeping that old spirit alive, that honest, that, I don't know what you call it, but just that honest, sincere approach to music in the Bay Area, or arts in the Bay Area for that matter.
Yeah.
Because now we've got all this digital stuff that goes along with it to help with the visual side. So, yeah.
What's interesting about this conversation? We've been talking for however long. Nobody one time said, how do you make money from it? And that's the question we all ask ourselves. Like, we trade for beer as sponsors on our show, but I know we've had 500,000 viewers. So I'm like, how do you monetize that? How do you put somebody's logo with that's our blind spot. Our blind spot is sales. And so, but the thing is, we're not coming, at least us right here, this isn't a get rich quick.
No.
This is about building a scene and expressing yourself through art and through music. And I know that's what it is for the guys like Kenny and Stevie who are taking pictures. And I know we don't walk onto the set going, okay, well, how much am I making today to play this video? No, it's about sharing what we're making. And I think if that spirit continues, then we're coming from the right place as we move forward.
I 100% agree. And I think one of the cool things about the arts in general, but really about music specifically, it's always cool, whether it's an album that we've put together, or like just following a band that you like and seeing what they come out with. You're either watching yourself and your peers in this new form of self-discovery with whatever they've done with this batch of songs that they've written, or you're listening to a band that you really love explore some new thing that they haven't done before, and it's like,
Yeah.
I don't know, it's just always this cool experiment in psychology, right? Like you're just like kind of peering into these people's brains.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. Yeah, I mean, money's nice, but it definitely is not the most interesting thing about.
Do you
music.
remember? So we're all talking nostalgically about the 70s, 80s, 90s. Remember when your favorite artists, or even maybe not even your favorite artist, but here's a new album from so and so. I remember what it was like to go, I wonder what they have to say now. I wonder how this feels different than their last album. And so it was almost like an ongoing conversation, and I don't get that from hardly any studio artists ever, and haven't for a long time.
Right.
And I realized that was missing from my life when I began connecting with some of these local artists who we played them 2 years ago, their 3 years ago stuff, and now suddenly they've got something new. And I think, oh, cool. And I found myself with that excitement of like, what do they have to say now? You know, it's like, oh, that's kind of cool.
Well, and just like getting back to Bowie, right? It's like if you go through Bowie's discography, it basically is just a portrait of his own life. And like, Ziggy Stardust is like his big breakthrough album. And you're like, oh man, good for this guy, and then Diamond Dogs, or no, I'm sorry, there's Latin saying, then Diamond Dogs, and it's like, oh, things are getting a little dark. I wonder if he's okay, and then you get into like Young Americans, and you're like, oh, this guy is like definitely on coke, right? and then and then there's Station to Station, where it's like, oh yeah, he's like a coke addict, and he needs to do something new with his life and get cleaned up. And then you're like, oh, okay, now he's like working through it with the Berlin era. And then then there's Let's Dance, where it's like, hey, actually Bowie's fine, everybody, he's clean again.
That's an awesome narrative. I love that. I always heard the story about how he you'd probably know better than I, but I guess his label screwed him on a deal. Like I guess there was some sort of a thing where he owed them 3 albums, and they just hammered him hard on something. And he's like, okay, fine, I'm going to give you the weirdest, most experimental, far out shit that I can think of. And I'm going to get myself out of my deal. And then the next album he did was Let's Dance.
Oh, okay.
Like
that makes
almost as a screw
sense.
you to the last guy,
That makes perfect sense. Yeah.
And then there was the Iggy Pop story with that. Do you remember with China Girl? You know that story, right?
Well,
How they
so I know
China
that
Girl together.
Right. Yeah. China Girl was originally an Iggy Pop song.
Right. But Iggy had a smack problem, and I remember David Bowie telling him, "If you get yourself clean, I'll record this and give you all the money."
Wow.
Because of and so Iggy got himself clean, and he put it out, and it was a huge single, and the rest is history.
It's a big shout out to both of Zeke's dogs, named after both those people.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah.
What is it? Is it Iggy and Ziggy?
Yeah. With Izzy, I wanted to call her Iggy, but we kind of changed it up a little bit. But I do got a dog named Bowie. Yeah.
Excellent.
Well, it's Izzy Pop, right? Isn't it? Something like that?
Yeah. It's supposed to be Izzy Pop, but it's Izzy Pop.
Nice. Nice.
They make a perfect pair.
They do.
Cool.
All right.
Cool.
Damn, there's the dead spot. What the hell?
I almost filled it in. I was like, the radio guy in me just wanted to keep. So what's next? Are we going to be working on?
Well,
I was telling these guys we should do traffic and weather like every 10 minutes.
Right?
Yeah.
There you go.
3 years are good. And it's still cloudy outside.
I think this is great what you guys are doing. I thought, well, I don't know what the concept is, but I'm in,
Thanks. Yeah.
It's a lot of fun. And
Yeah, we still don't know either.
That's okay. That's okay.
Figuring it out as we go.
That's where the magic happens,
But the fun thing is that whenever have we had a moment in any of our lives, in any of our musical history, where we've ever been able to go actually like submit a question to a band and they actually answer it, or they acknowledge our presence, or they in real time. This isn't like a they did the best they could with what they had at the time, right? So there was no
Mhm.
social media back in the 80s. There was, 70s. So you weren't going to have your, big name bands and acts from back then be able to do
Right.
this. But I don't exactly see them doing it now because I think the money has gotten in the way, and
Mhm.
that motto of perception is everything
Right.
kind of reigns supreme. So if you're accessible, that means that everybody can be like you.
Mhm.
But okay, I still like the thought and concept of a band that is accessible,
Mhm.
and like we have social media. My stuff's not private. Anybody could friend me up or send me a request,
Mhm.
or just send me a message or something like that, and I respond to that stuff.
Do you hear that,
Totally.
guys?
So
He is
yeah.
looking for a stalker. He is.
Can I stalk you, Rick? Can I message you tonight?
Absolutely, feel free, and I will respond. But no, I mean, like that is kind of a cool concept. I think it's like back in the
is.
day, those
Mhm.
bands in the '60s, they used to hang out,
Mhm.
and now they're like famous and elevated, and the general populace kind of elevated them. But
Mhm.
having that groundedness and that accessibility to everybody, you're just an artist. You're not like a god.
Yeah. That's
We're
it.
just out there having fun and creating, and we get to do it together, and we get to go have some really magical moments with people that actually enjoy it. And that's the best part, is when you see people nodding their heads and dancing
Mhm.
and getting into it or singing the lyrics. Like that to me is fantastic. So
Right.
being able to still be accessible is the big, like, wow, man, this is really cool.
And
So here we are.
and just to piggyback off of that, Rick, I'll just admit, like, ever since we were on Soundwaves, I just thought, man, like, how cool to be just to hang out with music people, like, how cool to be just to have a show where we can just chat and just keep connecting with people, and so when the quarantine happened, I think we just kind of sat here and thought, well, what are some things that we've wanted to do for a while that we haven't been able to do, but now we can't make any weekend plans, and so we have all this time to plan for it. And this was one of those things. It's like, man, why don't we just hang out with people? We
Mhm.
can throw this up on the Facebook. We can invite people to ask questions. We can invite guests on the show and just chat about music. So, um, I guess it's a very polite way of saying that maybe I ripped you off, but hopefully not. I would say you really you and Shasta and Steve
Right.
really inspired us to do this. So
Oh, that's cool.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Definitely. Mike and I had been talking about doing something down the line, and this is a nice way to kind of speed that along,
Mhm.
to get our feet wet with this. But yeah, you're definitely an
And it's
inspiration,
always
man.
well, thank you. It's always a good conversation. I mean, like I said, you guys have been on our set, and what's frustrating to our crew is that we'll like do the thing and then sit around and shoot the shit for like 15, 20 minutes, because that conversation is just, it's great, and we don't get nearly enough. We don't get or take the time to do that nearly enough. We've often said, done the old work hard, play hard thing, but it's true, because you get together and you do a thing and you collaborate and you elevate as much as you can. And then you just go hang out with your best friends, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
that's the real fun there, is I can, I remember more about hanging out doing this show in the margins than I really remember about the shows that we do. So
Yeah.
it's great stuff.
Man,
Yeah, it
I got to
is.
say thank you to everybody in Frantic for bringing me into this and exposing me to Soundwaves and that whole family. And the first time I met you guys was at your Christmas episode, last
Okay,
year.
yeah.
And man, it's just been like a blast ever since.
Cool.
There hasn't been this like standoffishness or where do I fit in. It's just been like more of a, oh yeah, come on in, and you guys are very engaging. So it's felt, and I'm sure other bands out there feel the same way. You guys, you're very comfortable, but you're engaging, so all four of you, you pull the best out of these bands. You make us all feel comfortable. So there isn't like a, well, I don't think they like me kind of a thing. I'm going to go home. So
we just all love music, and yeah, I mean, and back at you, because it's just, we all have a love of music, and we love hanging out and talking about music. And it really just, you know, and Shasta is an incredible interviewer. I'll tell you, the other thing I love so much from a fan perspective is being 3 feet away from her and watching her react to people. Like, somebody will tell her a story and she'll have this completely authentic reaction. It either makes her cry or laugh or hold on, no, wait. And I'm on the ride with her. She's such as an interviewer, I tell her this all the time. She's such an incredible, she makes all of us care because she's the conduit for that ride, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I don't get that from many interviewers at all that I watch, but she has the ability to not only disarm and talk, you know, like, she's as excited to talk to you as I am to listen to her talk to you. I mean, and that's just a magical thing that she brings to this. So I'm, you know, it wouldn't be half the fun without her, I have to say. But yeah, it's been great. You know, I say, let's build a big festival. Let's make a dent. Let's have some fun.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Cool. I said it. I did it. I put it out there. See that?
I let you do that. You see what I did there? I kind of baited you a little earlier, and then you said it. So, all right. I see that coming up here in the future.
We got to do it. We got to do it.
You know,
I mean,
Frantic Romantic wants to be. We want to be part of that. We want to push you guys and put it out there and be part of whatever movement this is.
Agreed. Yeah.
So.
Yep.
Well, you know,
I think I just committed the band.
I think so.
Sorry.
I think so.
No, I mean, it's
right
like a given,
man.
It's
We're gonna do a thing, and y'all are gonna be there.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I really appreciate the. You know, I'm not saying we're wrapping up or anything, but I'm just saying thank you very much. It's been an honor. It was an honor to be asked, and just to hang out with you guys and talk about music. It's been a blast. So I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for joining us, man.
Yeah.
You were our first guest. You were our very first guest on this whole thing. So thank you very, very much.
Nice. I had a bunch of crap going on when you guys did it last week, and it was like this insane, you know, like, oh, we're all shut down, but somehow I'm busy today. And I got to the next day, and I'd forgotten, and Jeff said, hey, they gave you a shout out on the show. And I was like, really? So I went back and I heard the shout out, and I was like, oh, that was awesome. And I wound it back, and I heard about half of it while I was doing other stuff. So I was like, oh, right on. Because I haven't seen another band do this. I've seen solo artists, I've seen bands go on and play, but you guys are actually opening up a dialogue and amongst yourselves and with others. And that's awesome. I love that.
Well, thanks. Man.
Originally, I asked the band if they want to do like a group therapy session first, but they're like, no, let's open it up to guests, you know, have people come on.
That'll be the pre-show.
This is even better. This is better for me. You know, I'm not lonely anymore. So thank you guys. And thank you, Dennis, for coming on.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me. That's cool.
With that said, I believe
hang on.
Oh, go ahead.
Hang on.
Okay.
Is there anything you can tell us that we have to look forward to Soundwaves coming up this Sunday?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, anything to plug.
Yes, actually. We're gonna have Sam Chase on.
Okay, all right, yeah.
And he wrote a song. I don't know if you guys saw it, but he woke up and he responded to the death of John Prine by writing a song that was phenomenal. And he put it out there on his own thing. And so we're gonna talk to him about that. And if all goes according to plan, we're gonna have Lisa Montrose on. She's coming back.
Cool.
Cool. To do that interview tomorrow. And I can tell you, I was really happy when this showed up. Y'all know who Flying Burrito Brothers are.
Yeah.
From the legendary 60s band. So we've got the lead singer they're just called the Burrito Brothers, but we're going to have Chris, the lead singer, on in 2 weeks. We're shooting that this weekend. So that's going to be
cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool, man.
So it's a new world for us. We're just trying to figure out how to do it here and, you know, make it work.
Yeah. And 7:00 Sunday evening.
7:00 Sunday at SoundwavesTV.com.
All right.
Same bat channel, same bat time.
That's right.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. We plan to do these every 2 weeks, and we hope to have more guests on every week. And, you know, we love broadcasting live. We love taking your questions. So we will chat with you soon. Dennis, thank you again for joining us. It's an honor and a pleasure always to be chatting with you. And everybody, Sunday nights, 7 o'clock, Soundwaves TV. Please tune in. It's the coolest thing ever. Yeah.
Much appreciated. Thank you. Thank you very much.
On.
Yeah.
All right.
Cool.
Cool.
Have a good night.
Hey, buddy.
Thank you.
Good night, guys. All right.
All right.